Shalom and welcome back to another episode of Weekly Torah Talks, where we share timely Torah messages relevant both to the Beit HaMikdash and to your lives. This coming Sunday night, the Hebrew date, Chaf Hei Kislev, the 25th of the month of Kislev, the Jewish people are going to begin celebrating the holiday of Chanukah. Chanukah, as I assume most of my viewers know, is a holiday which celebrates two miracles. One miracle, the miracle of the war that was won by the Jews, specifically the Hashmonaim, against the Yavanim, against the Greeks, when the Jews were very few and much weaker than the Greeks, and yet they miraculously were victorious against the Greeks. And the second miracle was that after the war, the Jews wanted to continue service in the Beit HaMikdash, and they only found one jug of pure olive oil. And it would take them another 8 days until they were able to secure more pure olive oil for the service of the Beit HaMikdash. And with this one jug that was only supposed to last for one night, it managed to last them for 8 nights until they were able to get more pure olive oil. Those are the two miracles that we celebrate on Chanukah. And to commemorate this latter miracle, the Jews light one of these. Every house has at least one. Some houses have many menorahs or Chanukiah that we light. We light one starting from here, and then each night we add, and we light it until we have 8 lights corresponding to the 8 nights of the Chanukah miracle. But what many of you might not know is that there's a discussion in the Talmud about whether or not you can actually use a candle. Let's say the night was night 3, so there's 3 candles here. Can I use a candle that was already lit? Can I use this first candle that was lit to light the other 2 candles? Or can I use this candle to light this candle? Or must it only be from an outside candle? So the Talmud there, the Gemara, in Masechet Shabbat, says 2 opinions, the opinion of Rav and the opinion of Shmuel. Rav says you cannot use one of these candles to light its fellow candle, whereas Shmuel says you could use one of these candles to light its fellow candle. And the reason for this disagreement, one of the reasons given in the Gemara, is that Rav says is that when you take from this candle, let's say, to bring the light over to this candle, you're diminishing the flame of this candle in a slight way. And it's not proper to diminish the flame that's being used for a mitzvah when bringing it over to another candle. Shmuel, on the other hand, says you're not diminishing anything by taking from the first candle. Now, in the end of the day, the law follows Shmuel, and theoretically, a person could take from this candle to light onto this candle. What are they really arguing about? Generally speaking, we don't like to say that 2 rabbis are having a dispute regarding how the world works. We call it in Hebrew a machloket b'mitziut. We don't like to make a dispute about how the world works. Rather, in this case, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks explained it as follows. He says the best way to answer this is to think of 2 Jews, both religious, both committed, both living Jewish lives. One says, I must not get involved with Jews who are less religious than me, because if I do, my own standards will fall. I'll keep less, my light will be diminished. That's the view of Rav. Shmuel says no. When I use the flame of my faith to light a candle in someone else's life, then my Jewishness isn't diminished. It grows, because now there's more Jewish light in the world. When it comes to spiritual goods as opposed to material goods, the more I share, the more I have. And so maybe that is the deeper essence of what's happening here. Rav is saying you can't light from one to the other, because if you light, you might be taking away from yourself. But Shmuel is saying, no, you could and you should light from one to the other, because when you light, you're not taking away from yourself. You're a flame. A flame doesn't actually lose any fire when it's being used to light another candle. It's just spreading the fire that it has to others, but it's not losing in and of itself. This idea that we as Jews, or perhaps anyone that's trying to spread light, that we don't lose when we spread that light, is expressed in another couple places in a different way. The Sefer Chinuch explains regarding the commandment of lo tikom, not to take revenge, that this is really a commandment about one's faith in God. This idea, the light of a Jew, or really maybe anyone trying to do good, that when it's taken from himself and given over to others, does not diminish oneself, but rather actually increases the light for all around, is seen in another place in an almost counterintuitive way. We are about to begin the Torah portions that speak about Yoseph and his brothers. That Yoseph was betrayed by his brothers, and because of his brothers' actions, he was sent down to Egypt, and eventually actually became the viceroy to Pharaoh himself. And when Yoseph did his big reveal to his brothers were scared. After all, they had thrown Yoseph into a pit, they had sold him to Egypt. Yoseph had every reason to take revenge. And therefore the verse there tells us that Yoseph comforted them. Our sages teach us that Yoseph comforted them with the following words. If 10 candles, in reference to the 10 brothers who sought his harm, if 10 candles cannot extinguish one candle, certainly one candle cannot put out 10 candles. And there, one of the commentaries, the Maharsha, explains this beautifully. He says that Yosef described each brother as a candle. When the 10 candles attacked a single candle, the single candle, Yosef, wasn't put out. In fact, he grew. He became the viceroy. The nature of a candle, as we discussed in the opinion of Shmuel, is that it cannot extinguish or take away, nor from itself, or not even from another candle. It can only make the other candle's flame bigger. And the same is true with each and every Jew, says the Maharsha. When someone makes fun of us, when someone does something to slight us, we have to realize he's a candle and I'm a candle. His actions can't weaken me. They can only make me stronger. This idea is also found in the context of Jewish law. The Sefer Chinuch explains the mitzvah, the commandment of lo tikom, not to take revenge, as a commandment really of faith, of emunah. Because when a person realizes that everything that happens to him is because Hashem, because God decreed that that individual should experience that thing, then he'll realize that there's no reason to take revenge on someone who did him wrong. This is really that idea. That person is just a messenger of God. That person is just a candle. He's just another flame. He happened to do the wrong thing to you and he'll be punished for that. But you were expected to experience that. You were sent to experience it from God. It wasn't necessarily had to be through him. It would have happened to you one way or another. And therefore it's inappropriate for you to take revenge on that person, because that person was just sending you a message that God wanted you to hear, that God wanted you to feel and experience. I think this idea, which really began with Shmuel teaching us that we can use one flame to light another, is really an idea about the Beit HaMikdash that we can take with our lives. We know the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinat chinam and baseless hatred. But in truth, no one really hates someone without a reason. For sure, the person wronged him. The person did something, slighted him in some way. The person took advantage of him. We have to realize that all of us here on this earth that are trying to do good, it's impossible that something that was done to us by someone else wasn't meant to come our way. And it's also impossible for us to not want to share with others because we're afraid of what others will do to us. Rather, we have to view ourselves and everyone else's flames. A flame cannot put out another flame, and a flame cannot take away from itself when sharing with another. And with that, we won't come to hate anyone, because we'll realize that everything that happened was for a reason, for a greater good. And we'll also come to share wisdom with others. And ultimately, we'll be able to experience the light of Chanukah, the light of the menorah once again in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash. May it be soon in our days. Have a great Shabbat and a great Chanukah.